y'all, it is Nikki. Welcome back to the channel where we are officially a month away from Christmas. I feel like for the past couple years, Christmas has just like snuck up on me and I just have no time to think about it or get excited for it. But this year I'm like right into the vibe. We watched our first Christmas movie last night, The Man Who Invented Christmas. Oh, probably my favorite Christmas movie ever. I had my first cup of hot chocolate. I'm listening to Christmas music, which I normally don't really do. So in light of all that, I wanted to take today's video to review this Christmas themed book, Jennifer Kropf's A Soul as Cold as Frost, partly because of the Christmas vibes going on, but also because one of you actually recommended it in the comments not too long ago. I made a staging video for this book over the summer because you need Christmas in July, obviously. It is about a girl named Helen Bell, I believe she's about 17, who is just living her ordinary life in Ontario, Canada, right close to home for me. That really doesn't happen very much for my American friends. It's very rare that you see like a hometown or a town that's close to your hometown in a book up here. Anyway though, so Helen Bell, she is just an ordinary high school girl at Christmas time and finds herself tugged into this world called winter, which is sort of fitted inside our world. She suddenly finds herself able to see through the veil into this other world within her world where everything is winter Christmas themed, and discovers that she is now the keeper, the guardian of this magical object that has the power to save this world from its impending peril. And she learns all this from Zane Cohen, the guardian who's been assigned to protect her and make sure that this magical object gets where it needs to get. So right off the top, I have to say, Zane is great. I loved Zane. He's very much a sort of Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians kind of a vibe. Actually, Rise of the Guardians is sort of a good comp title for this series. You've got this Christmas themed world. You've got a Santa Claus character who's actually like a trickster evil villain character. Also a little bit Harry Potter-ish in the world building, not in like a wizarding kind of sense, but just because of the eclectic world. You get the sense that there's just so many little details that you want to take in and just an absurd amount of characters, which I absolutely love. If I'm starting with the strengths, world building is far and away the best part of this book, the part I loved the most. Warm, full of detail, so creative and just unique. I just wanted to move here, like permanently. And the main characters I found compelling. I don't often go for female protagonists in first person. That's not my jam typically. But Helen, I felt was so relatable. Like she's so painfully ordinary. It's not like one of those characters that gets thrust into an impossible situation and then is somehow just like way too competent. She is very much a reflection of what I would be like if I were thrown into this world with all these perils and no idea how to handle it. Admittedly, that did make for a bit of a helpless girl needing to be saved by the guy who has all the answers thing. But as the book goes on, she becomes more and more capable, kind of comes into her own and is able to stand on her own 2 feet and actually like really contribute by the end of the book. It's clean, it's very sweet. Seems like there's a developing romance between Zane and Helen, but they don't really get into that in the first book, so I think that's probably something that will come more in the next books. I've heard the book described as a middle grade. I'm not sure how I feel about that. The characters are young adult age, and I didn't feel like it was a particularly like young read. I mean, by today's standard of what YA is, sure, okay, maybe it's not YA, but I don't really love today's standard of what YA is. So I don't know. I feel like you could make a case that this is actually sort of on the younger side of YA, especially considering, again, how old the characters are. The writing is quite lyrical, which makes for a lot of really beautiful description, especially with food. And I think that is like a huge part of what gives the story its delightful, whimsical, Christmassy flavor. And there's a great message about truth, about Christ. I mean, this is a Christmas book. Christ is the most important part of Christmas, and that definitely comes through. I would say that on the like implicitly Christian to explicitly Christian scale, this book would be just a little bit more explicit than, say, the Chronicles of Narnia or like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe specifically. She does try to be kind of like sneaky about it, but I mean, we know what to look for, so it's not too hard to pick out where the Christian theme is. I would say that if you're a Christian fantasy reader, you will just love it. If you're not, I would say that it's not too much. You will still enjoy it and get something great out of it, even if that's like explicitly Christian fantasy isn't traditionally your genre. Okay, I hate saying negative things about books. I just really hate that. I feel like it's like, I don't know, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But I also know that when people watch a review, they want to know that they can trust the reviewer, not to just be a cheerleader, but also to be a little bit critical. So I will do my best. Right off the top, I will say that I have no content complaints. Like, there were really no issues there for me. I don't think there was any like over-the-top violence. Again, the romance if it can even be called romance at this point is just so sweet that it's like a non-issue. The only thing that I can think of is that I think Zane uses bloody as a curse word, which is a non-issue for me, but I don't know if you're reading it to your kids and that's something you want to be aware of. There you go, you have it. Plot-wise, it moves pretty quickly. Like, something is always happening, and once things get going especially, it's like, it's pretty boom, boom, boom. But from what I can remember, and I read this a couple months ago, so please forgive me if I'm just misremembering, I felt that maybe the overarching goal that we were trying to achieve was a little hazy. Not just like what the goal was, but what will actually happen if we don't achieve the goal practically. Like, what will failure look like? It becomes clear at the end. Plus, there's just so much other peril happening that it doesn't really like detract from the tension in the story, because I mean, she's constantly being chased by people, monsters, creatures that want to kill her and want to bring her in to the evil queen. So like, there's enough tension, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There is one area where I think there could have been more tension though, and that is in the relationship between her and Zane. As someone who has spent the last year learning more about how to write romance, I would say that things happen a little too quickly. They do have some bumps in the road earlier in the story. There are some hiccups. They get off to a rough start, I guess you could say, but it really doesn't take them long to become like quite close, which maybe has to do with the guardian relationship. It could be like a magical bonding thing. Honestly, I can't even decide how I feel about this, if I like it or not, because on one hand, I hate it when writers just contrive conflict to keep two people apart. That drives me absolutely insane. In that sense, this is like exactly what I always want. Like, why is there a need for stupid conflict? So like, you might love that. And I did love it. Like, I don't know that I really have an issue with it, but at the same time, from a story perspective, it did feel like things maybe happened a little too easily, a little too quickly, so that you're left like, huh, like, is it really like that? Still sweet though, and honestly, I do just love their relationship and the way that they have to sacrifice for each other. And I'm looking forward to seeing it develop in the future. I'm thinking the tension will be something that the author might introduce later in the series. All in all, like, delightful read. I'm really just like glad to have it in my collection. It's the kind of book that I'd just be happy lending to people. I would just feel good about sharing. If you are into the Chronicles of Narnia, if you're into The Rise of the Guardians, if you are into Harry Potter, I would recommend this series because it brings kind of like the best parts of all of them into just a really fun indie book. Plus, it's always good to support indie authors, especially at Christmas. Do something good for an indie author and support her book. I hope that this helps you to get into the Christmas season. Now you have a Christmas book that you can go and read. Obviously, I mean, the best way to spread Christmas cheer is reviewing Christmas books loud for all to hear. So I've done my job. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, do not forget to spend some time in the clouds today.